Welcome to Echoes of the Lost Audiobook, where forgotten stories come to life. Dive into worlds of mystery, survival, and the unknown. If you enjoy our stories, don't forget to like and subscribe to stay updated with our latest audiobooks. Chap 50, Breaths After Battle. Ryder knelt beside the mutant monster's corpse, his right hand still gripping the long spear he'd crafted, its tip coated in black, foul blood, his eyes fixed on the creature's red eyes, now dimmed in the gas forge's thick white smoke. The central machine's deep thrum rumbled steadily behind, laced with sharp metallic whines, now clear again as the monster's growls no longer drowned the square chamber's stifling air. Dense smoke poured from pipes on the ceiling and walls, heavy with sulfur and burnt metal, but the tangy stench of the monster's blood overpowered it all, making the air thick and hard to breathe. Lena sat a few steps away, her left hand clutching her wounded shoulder, red blood seeping through her fingers, dripping onto the metal floor, her eyes weary but resolute, her old crude spear lying discarded beside her. Torin knelt close to the floor, one arm supporting Mira, the young girl breathing slowly through her useless filter, her breaths faint but steadier, her pale face showing faint relief post-battle. Kalia stood near the scrap pile, her crude mace upright in her right hand, her gaze sweeping the monster's corpse then back to the group, her hand trembling slightly but still vigilant. The control point of Archive had been both arena and lab, where the Seraphim, the hidden controllers, had thrust them through the monster trial, and now they'd survived, but at the cost of blood and drained strength. He pulled the Seraphim device from his bag, its red light blinking slower on the cold metal surface, the small screen showing a curt message, Archive, Ryder, trial complete. Rest, but prepare, next phase nears. The words echoed in his mind, cold and detached, carrying a new warning. They'd won, but peace wasn't theirs, just a brief pause before the Seraphim pressed on. He opened his notebook, its pages crumpled and gray, his fingers brushing the rough surface as he wrote slowly, Day 35 North, inside Gas Forge. Archive Phase 4, Monster dead, next phase what? He paused, his dark brown eyes narrowing through the smoke, staring at the creature's corpse, unease simmering like poison seeping through cracks. Rest, but prepare, he muttered, his low, hoarse voice blending with the machine's thrum, they're not giving us real recovery. He inhaled lightly through his cloth, analyzing the air, sulfur, burnt metal, and blood tang, then turned to the group, checking each one's state. Lena looked up, her left hand still on her shoulder, the red blood slowing but staining her torn cloth, her eyes meeting Ryder's. You okay? She asked, her voice rough, trying to sit straighter despite a faint tremble from pain. I hit its eye, but this cost, she frowned, taking a short breath through her cloth, wincing as the smoke hit, but her gaze stayed fierce, unwilling to admit the wound weakened her. Ryder nodded, kneeling beside her, his right hand setting the spear on the floor, his left inspecting her shoulder wound, deep, a 10-centimeter gash, the bleeding sluggish but needing immediate binding. I'm fine, you're not, he said, his voice low but firm, pulling an old cloth from his bag, tearing it into strips, and wrapping it tightly around her shoulder as a makeshift bandage. The cost was you, but I won't lose anyone. He scribbled fast in his notebook, Lena shoulder wound, deep 10 centimeters, temp bandage, blood loss how much? He turned to the group, his voice clear, rest here, Lena needs to stop bleeding, I need to check the body. Stay close. Torin looked up, his cloudy eyes flickering with relief at the monster's stillness, but worry lingered as he glanced at Lena. Can she hold on? He asked, his voice slow, his arm tightening around Mira as if to shield her from any lingering threats in the smoke. Mira drew a long breath, the wheezing in her throat softer, her face still bone-white, but her eyes brightened with faint hope. I feel better, she whispered, her voice faint but gentle, dropping the small metal scrap, watching Ryder tend Lena. "Thank you all." Kalia stepped closer to the monster's corpse, her crude mace lowering, her gaze sweeping its hunched form, thick, gray-black skin, scarred, its malformed arms now limp but still menacing. "It's not natural," she said, her voice soft but sharp, crouching nearer, inhaling lightly to analyze the black blood scent. "Smells like burnt metal. Did they make it?" She frowned, turning to Ryder, her hand tightening on the mace, her eyes tense but curious, seeking to understand the fallen foe. Ryder stood, approaching the corpse, his right hand picking up the spear, his left brushing the thick hide on its neck, hard, cold, but with faint stitch lines, nearly invisible, like signs of an experiment. "Not natural," he said, his voice low, using the spear tip to cut a small slit in the skin, revealing the flesh beneath, black, viscous, laced with thin metal strands like artificial veins. "They built it, a hybrid of creature and machine." He wrote slowly in his notebook, "Hybrid monster, stitched skin, metal in flesh, seraphim experiment." He turned to the group, his voice clear, "It's their creation, this trial tested us, but also it. Rest now, I need to think." The seraphim device buzzed faintly, its red light blinking slow, and the cold, deep voice crackled through the speaker, "Ryder, the weak has fallen. Your strength is data, next phase awaits." The voice cut off, but the central machine's thrum seemed to grow, white smoke venting steadily from the pipes, a reminder the forge wasn't done with them. Ryder froze, his eyes widening, his chest tightening as the human tone hit again. The seraphim didn't just want survival, they measured their strength through this fight. He wrote quickly, his hand shaky, human voice, "Strength as data, next phase what?" He turned to the group, his voice taut, "They're using this as data, rest, but stay ready. We're not out." Lena gripped her bandaged shoulder, her eyes flashing with anger and fatigue. "Data?" she echoed, her voice dropping low, trying to stand but faltering, her right hand bracing the floor. "They took my blood to measure." She took a slow breath, her gaze still defiant despite her body's weakness. Torin helped Mira sit up, his voice trembling, "What more do they want?" Mira looked up, her weary eyes sharp. "If it's data, we'll show them we're stronger," she whispered, her voice faint but resolute, her hand clutching her cloth like a lifeline. Kalia knelt by the corpse, her gaze fixed on its stitched skin. "They made it to test us," she said, her voice soft, her hand brushing its malformed arm, feeling the metal's hardness within. "But we won, now what?" Ryder glanced at the group, then the corpse. They'd survived, but weren't safe. "Now we rest," he said, his voice low, sitting beside Lena, taking a slow breath through his cloth, the burning in his chest easing slightly. But eyes open, the seraphim are planning the next step. The group gathered close, breathing slowly, smoke still swirling, but they didn't fall, they waited, in the fragile breaths after battle. Chap 51, Signals from the Depths. Ryder sat against a broken metal panel dangling from the gas forge's wall, his right hand setting the long spear on the floor, his eyes sweeping the mutant monster's motionless corpse a few meters away, its black, foul blood still pooling, mingling with the thick white smoke around them. The central machine's deep thrum rumbled steadily, laced with sharp metallic whines, like an iron heart beating relentlessly in the square chamber's stifling air. Dense smoke poured from pipes on the ceiling and walls, heavy with sulfur and burnt metal, the tangy stench of the monster's blood making each breath through his nose cloth a burning struggle. Lena sat beside him, her left hand clutching her bandaged shoulder, red blood seeping through but slowing, her weary but keen eyes tracking Ryder's every move. Torin knelt nearby, one arm supporting Mira, the young girl breathing slowly through her useless filter, her breath steadier, her pale face showing faint hope post-battle. Kalia stood by the scrap pile, her crude mace lowered, her gaze shifting from the monster's corpse to the metal floor, as if searching for something in the vibrations beneath her feet. The control point of Archive was an unrelenting testing ground, where the Seraphim, the hidden controllers, had left the monster as a trial, and now, after surviving, a new signal lurked in the smoke. He pulled the Seraphim device from his bag, its red light blinking steadily on the cold metal surface, the small screen showing a curt message: Archive, Writer, data logged. Signal from the depths, find or wait. The words echoed in his mind, cold and cryptic, carrying a new command. They'd beaten the monster, but the ordeal wasn't over. Signal from the depths was the next clue. He opened his notebook, its pages crumpled and gray, his fingers brushing the rough surface as he wrote slowly, Day 36 North, inside Gas Forge. Archive Phase 4, Monster dead, depth signal what? He paused, his dark brown eyes narrowing through the smoke, feeling the vibrations under the floor, not just the central machines, but another, deeper, slower rhythm, like an echo from below ground. From the depths, he muttered, his low, hoarse voice blending with the thrum, do they want us to dig? He inhaled lightly through his cloth, analyzing the air, the burnt metal scent sharper now, hinting at another machine hidden somewhere. Lena turned to him, her left hand still on her shoulder, her eyes flashing with caution and fatigue. What do you see? She asked, her voice rough, crouching to feel the floor's vibrations, frowning at the strange, deep rhythm. Smoke still thick, but something's off, you hear it? She took a short breath through her cloth, wincing as the smoke hit, but her gaze stayed sharp, piercing the toxic haze for answers. Ryder nodded, kneeling, pressing his right hand to the cold metal floor, feeling the vibrations, the machine's steady pulse, but beneath it, a deeper, slower beat, like an echo from a void below. Not just smoke, he said, his voice low but certain, his left hand pulling the sharp metal shard from his bag, tapping it lightly on the floor. A faint clang rang out, followed by a low, lingering echo, as if the floor were hollow. Something's down there, another level, or a bigger machine. He scribbled fast in his notebook, deep vibrations, hollow floor, signal from below. He turned to the group, his voice clear, new signal, under the floor. Rest, but watch the vibrations. Torin looked up, his cloudy eyes flickering with worry at under the floor. Below us? He asked, his voice slow, his arm tightening around Mira as if the floor might give way. What else are they hiding? Mira drew a long breath, the wheezing in her throat softer, her face still bone white, but her eyes glinted with curiosity. If it's down there, a way out, she whispered, her voice faint but hopeful, her hand brushing the floor, feeling the vibrations. Kalia stepped closer to Ryder, her crude mace lowered, her gaze sweeping the floor then back to the monster's corpse. Vibrations different from before, she said, her voice soft but keen, crouching to tap her jagged metal shard on the floor. The low echo sounded, stronger near the corpse. Near it, connected? She frowned, taking a quick breath through her cloth, her eyes tense but inquisitive, piecing clues together. Ryder stood, approaching the corpse, his right hand gripping the spear, his left tapping hard on the floor beside it. The echo deepened, a stronger vibration rippling through his legs. Under it, he said, his voice low, using the spear tip to pry a small metal plate loose, revealing a narrow, deep crevice, cold air wafting up, carrying a sharp burnt metal scent. This is the signal, a way down, or another trap. He wrote slowly in his notebook, crevice under floor, near monster, cold air plus burnt metal, path or trap. He turned to the group, his voice taut, there's a way below, do we find it, or wait for them to force us? The Seraphim device buzzed hard, its red light flashing faster, and the cold, deep voice crackled through the speaker, "Writer, the depths are new data. Find it, or be pulled down, the trial doesn't wait." The voice cut off, but the central machine's thrum spiked, white smoke venting thicker from the pipes, and the floor's vibrations intensified, as if something stirred awake. Ryder froze, his eyes widening, his chest tightening as the human tone hit again. The seraphim offered no real choice, just time before the next trial began. He wrote quickly, his hands shaky, human voice, depths equals data, vibrations rising, way down. He turned to the group, his voice firm, "They're forcing us down, get ready, I'll widen it." Lena gripped her bandaged shoulder, her eyes flashing with anger and resolve. "Down there," she echoed, her voice dropping low, struggling to stand, her right hand grabbing her old spear. "They want us dead below too." She took a slow breath, her gaze fierce despite her weakness. Torin held Mira, his voice trembling, "What if it collapses?" Mira looked up, her weary eyes sharp. "If it's a way out, we have to," she whispered, her voice faint but resolute, her hand pressing the floor, feeling the growing vibrations. Kalia knelt by the crevice, her gaze locked on the cold air rising. "Metal scent, like the monster," she said, her voice soft, tapping the floor again, the echo deeper. "Something's there, do we go?" She turned to Ryder, her eyes tense but trusting. Ryder stared at the crevice, then the group, smoke thickening, vibrations rising, the seraphim unrelenting. "We go," he said, his voice low, prying harder with the spear, widening the gap into a hole big enough to crawl through, cold air hitting his face. "But stick close, I don't know what's below." The group gathered around the hole, breaths heavy, ready to step into the signal from the depths of the dead land. Chap 52, Descent into the Cold. Ryder knelt by the hole in the gas forge's metal floor, his right hand gripping the long spear he'd used to widen the crevice, his eyes fixed on the deep darkness below, where cold air rose with a sharp burnt metal scent. The central machine's deep thrum rumbled steadily above, laced with sharp metallic whines, but now overshadowed by a deeper vibration from beneath the floor, a slow, heavy rhythm, like the echo of a massive machine waking in the earth. White smoke from the ceiling and wall pipes remained thick, blending sulfur's pungency with the cold draft from the hole, forming a misty, choking haze that made each breath through his nose cloth a burning struggle. Lena knelt beside him, her left hand clutching her bandaged shoulder, dried blood staining the cloth brown, her keen eyes peering into the hole, her right hand gripping her old crude spear, ready despite her weakened state. Torin sat close to the floor a few steps away, one arm supporting Mira, the young girl breathing slowly through her useless filter, her breath steadier, her pale face showing faint resolve amid exhaustion. Kalia knelt near the hole, her crude mace set on the floor, her gaze tracking the cold air rising, her left hand brushing the hole's edge, feeling the intensifying vibrations. The control point of Archive had opened a new layer, a cold descent hidden beneath the metal floor, where the seraphim, the hidden controllers, pushed them toward the signal from the depths. He pulled the seraphim device from his bag, its red light blinking fast on the cold metal surface, the small screen showing a curt message, "Archive, Ryder, the depths are the trial. Descend or be dragged, data awaits." The words echoed in his mind, cold and unrelenting, confirming this descent as the inevitable next step in the Seraphim's experiment. He opened his notebook, its pages crumpled and gray, his fingers brushing the rough surface as he wrote slowly, Day 37 North, inside Gas Forge. Archive Phase 4, way down, what data below? He paused, his dark brown eyes narrowing into the hole's darkness, feeling the vibrations beneath, a deep, steady pulse, like the heartbeat of something alive below. Data awaits, he muttered, his low, hoarse voice blending with the thrum. What do they want us to find down there? He inhaled lightly through his cloth, analyzing the cold air, burnt metal, but tinged with a faint musty dampness, like air from an ancient cave. Lena turned to him, her left hand still on her shoulder, her eyes flashing with caution and resolve. "You sure?" she asked, her voice rough, crouching to peer into the hole, frowning as the cold air hit her face. "No smoke down there, but the vibrations are stronger, more dangerous than up here." She took a short breath through her cloth, wincing as the ceiling smoke hit, but her right hand tightened on her spear, her gaze locked on the darkness below. Ryder nodded, kneeling closer to the hole, his right hand setting the spear on the floor, his left brushing the edge, feeling the icy chill of the metal, stark against the stifling heat above. "Sure," he said, his voice low but firm, pulling the sharp metal shard from his bag and dropping it into the hole. A faint clang echoed after a few seconds, distant, like it hit a vast space. "There's a floor below, not too deep, but enough to hide something." He scribbled fast in his notebook, "Hole deep, floor below, vibrations plus burnt metal, new trial?" He turned to the group, his voice clear, "Going down's the only choice, they'll drag us if we don't. Get ready, I'll go first." Torin looked up, his cloudy eyes flickering with fear at "be dragged." "Drag us how?" he asked, his voice slow and shaky, his arm tightening around Mira as if to keep her from the dark abyss below. Mira drew a long breath, the wheezing in her throat softer, her face still bone-white, but her eyes glinted with hope. "What if, there's clean air down there," she whispered, her voice faint but resolute, her hand brushing the hole's edge, feeling the cold air on her skin. Kalia crouched lower, her crude mace aside, her gaze fixed on the hole, her left hand picking up a small scrap from the floor and dropping it. A clang echoed, like Ryder's, but she frowned at a fainter sound, like dripping water far off. "Not just metal," she said, her voice soft but sharp, inhaling lightly to analyze the cold air. "Water, or something wet down there." She turned to Ryder, her eyes tense but curious, her hand gripping her mace, ready to follow him down. Ryder frowned, rising slowly, his right hand gripping the spear, his eyes sweeping the hole then back to the group, the floor's vibration strengthening, as if something moved below. "Water, or something," he said, his voice low, crouching to tie the spear to his back with old cloth, preparing to descend. "Whatever it is, we need to know, the Seraphim won't let us wait long." He wrote fast, "Cold air, water drips, vibrations rising, what's below?" He turned to the group, his voice taut, "I'll go first, check it, if it's safe, follow. Stay close, don't let anyone fall." The Seraphim device buzzed hard, its red light flashing faster, and the cold, deep voice crackled through the speaker, "Ryder, the depths call. Descend to live, or stay to die, data doesn't wait." The voice cut off, but the floor's vibration surged, paired with a sharp metallic screech from deep below, like something opening in the dark. Ryder froze, his eyes widening, his chest tightening as the human tone hit again. The Seraphim weren't just pushing them down, they'd triggered something below to force action. He wrote quickly, his hands shaky, human voice, vibrations plus screech below, trial starting. He turned to the group, his voice firm, "They've activated something down there, I'm going now. Follow close." Lena gripped her spear tighter, her eyes flashing with anger and resolve. "Live or die," she echoed, her voice dropping low, standing despite a faint tremble in her shoulder, her left hand tightening her bandage. "I'm going, not letting them drag me." She took a slow breath, her gaze fierce, stepping toward the hole. Torin held Mira, his voice trembling, "What if it's a trap?" Mira looked up, her weary eyes sharp. "If it's life, we have to try, she whispered, her voice faint but steadfast, grasping Torin's hand, ready for him to lower her. Kalia stood, her crude mace upright in her right hand, her gaze locked on the hole. That screech, like a machine, she said, her voice soft, stepping beside Ryder, inhaling the cold air from the hole. I'm with you, careful down there. She turned to him, her eyes tense but trusting. Ryder nodded, crouching, sliding through the hole. Cold air enveloped him, darkness swallowing his vision, but he felt a metal floor about 3 meters below. He lowered himself, feet touching down, the vibration stronger, the metallic screech closer, like a door grinding open in the shadows. Floor solid, he called up, his voice low, untying the spear from his back, sweeping around. Faint light from the hole above revealed a long, wet metal corridor, water dripping from a distant ceiling. Come down, fast. The group followed one by one, breaths heavy, stepping into the cold descent of the dead land.